Armour, Alabama rules Peach Bowl with defense, but offensive concerns linger. Atlanta, Alabama's defense is every bit as terrifying as advertised. Maybe even more so. Its offense, well, that's a different story. And it will make the difference between a second consecutive national title and a loss that will grate on Nick Saban like no other. When Bo Scarborough is rumbling like a freight train, as he did Saturday for an Alabama Bowl record 180 yards, no one stands a chance. Not anyone in the Southeastern Conference. Not Washington and not its opponent in the January 9th title game, regardless if it's Clemson or Ohio State. But there's no guarantee he will. Not when Alabama looked as disjointed as it did for much of a 24-7 victory against Washington that should have been even more lopsided than it was. There were play calls that made no sense. Jalen Hurts tried to get cuter than any freshman quarterback, even one that is 14-0 now, has a right to be. Sloppiness that translated into penalties. Taken together, they reveal a vulnerability on a team many have been ready to anoint as one of, if not the best, ever. Alabama turned Bo Scarborough loose, and he closed the deal versus Washington. Alabama drubs Washington in Peach Bowl, advances to national title game. Alabama's Rashaan Evans comically slips and falls while running onto SEC networks that we just never could really get it going. Tight end O.J. Howard said of the passing game, which resulted in a measly 57 yards. It's tough to see that. But at least we got the running game going and we won the game. Alabama will still be the heavy favorite to claim its fourth national championship in 6 years. That's how good the Crimson Tide's defense is. Jake Browning is going to be seeing Jonathan Allen and Ryan Anderson in his nightmares for months, with good reason. It was Allen's fumble recovery at the end of the first quarter set up Alabama's go-ahead field goal. Anderson all but sealed the game with a pick-six just before halftime. For those keeping score, that's 11 touchdowns by Alabama's defense this season. Yes, you read that correctly. 11. By 9 different players, no less. Tempting as it might be, however, Saban can play 11 on 22. He needs to be able to count on his offense, too, and that looks to be a bit of a gamble. No pressure. It just means it's time for us to go do our job, Anderson said when asked if the offense's inconsistency puts an added burden on the defense. It means we get to play more. More plays mean more opportunities. College football bowl schedule, results for 2016-17. PSU's golden inspired by toughness of his mom. Brother Florida State running back Dalvin Cook declares for the NFL draft that Alabama's offense was a mess is partly a credit to Washington, which has a ferocious defense of its own. But offensive coordinator Lane Kiffin played a part, too. From the first time Scarborough touched the ball, it was clear Washington couldn't contain him. Yet Kiffin inexplicably went away from him late in the second quarter and early in the third, when Scarborough touched the ball just 3 times. Instead, Hurts seemed to have free rein, and he's just not a good enough passer to do that. On one drive, the Crimson Tide gained all of 12 yards in 7 plays. On another, they went 3 and out, finishing exactly where they started. Let Bo loose. Derrick Henry, the Heisman Trophy-winning running back who led Alabama to the national title last year, said on Twitter. When Kiffin finally listened, Scarborough broke loose for a 68-yard scoring run that broke Washington's back. Maybe Kiffin, who will be the head coach at Florida Atlantic when the season ends, is trying to exert his independence knowing he's got one foot out the door. But as long as he's on the Alabama sideline, he needs to devise an offensive game plan that actually fits the team. Obviously, I think we have to do a better job at creating balance on offense and being able to throw the ball a little more effectively, Saban said. And that's something that we'll continue to work on. They'll have to. Again, Washington has a great defense and deserves credit for disrupting Alabama's offense. But Clemson and Ohio State can do the same, and both are better teams overall than Washington. Alabama is the best team in the country, but it can be beaten. It now has a week to make sure it's not by its own offense.